Hi and welcome to ReplicaAirguns.com, and today we're going to take a look at a nice blowback pellet pistol, and this one is an Umarex Beretta PX4 Storm. So we're doing things a little bit different today. I've written a list down because I seem to miss things from time to time and I wanted to make sure I got all my points across. So we'll go through this list, and the first thing I want to talk about are some of the cosmetics. The gun has a really good weight and feel. Take a look at the different sides here. You can see it's got a lot of the branding and everything, but you can see the look and feel. Very nice little gun. It has a metal slide, and it also has a metal trigger, and then the hammer as well. Let's decock that. Now, by the way, this gun is not loaded. It has a composite frame, so the frame is composite, and there are a few other plastic parts, including the magazine. And the magazine is plastic. Now the barrel is metal as well, and it's rifled, and then there's actually a plastic sleeve that goes around the barrel. A lot of guns do that, and I guess the benefit to that is that you don't see it getting all scratched up. So it's not really a bad idea. The whole thing doesn't need to be metal. It looks pretty authentic when, unless you get really close to it. One thing I find interesting about this air gun is that the actual slide seems to be like a blued, so it's dyed or blued. I'm not sure which one it is. It's not really blue, but it's kind of got a very sort of grayish metallic look. I don't think it's painted, and a lot of air guns have painted metals, where this one I believe is probably dyed in some way, maybe blued or with a different type of blue coloring, which is nice because it's going to wear really well compared to paints that can chip. If you're comparing this to the real Beretta PX4 Storm, it really does look very similar, with the exception, I'd have to say, of the safety here, which has been, this safety has sort of been stolen from the CP99 Compact, another Umarex product. They've put it into this model, and this wouldn't be on the real Beretta. But what's happened here is they've taken the slide release and they've molded it into the frame, and the actual original safety has been molded into the slide. So they don't function, they just are there for cosmetics. Another thing that I like about this particular gun is that it actually has the cutout for the ejection port, and I really like it when gun manufacturers do that. It really adds to the realism. The sights are quite nice on this particular gun, and you can see here they have the white dots in the front and the back, which makes for making it a little bit easier to shoot. It's much easier to line up your targets when they have that. There's also a Picatinny rail, so if you want to add different accessories onto this gun, like red dots or lights, you can do so. Now, it is a pellet gun, so it's going to be a little bit different the way that the way the magazine is designed, because you have a rotary clip here, and we'll talk a little bit more about feeding that later. But the rotary clip, it allows you to have pellets in here as opposed to feeding BBs. So, but the magazine is actually a really nice compromise, because it's pretty tough to do a spring-fed magazine with pellets. So you have to rotate it partway through to get the other 8. Now I want to talk a little bit about how this gun operates. It is a blowback gun, so when you shoot this gun, the blowback sends a slide back, which you can see cocks the hammer. But to actually rotate the rotary magazine, I'll show you, this is done through the trigger. So you can see how you can hear that little click. That's the rotary magazine going, and then the rest of it would be the actual hammer going. So if it's in single action mode with the hammer back, you can hear you'll hear a little click. That's the rotary magazine getting rotated, and then the last part becomes much easier with the hammer already cocked from the blowback. So there again, you can see a little bit of a rotary thing going on, and then the hammer's released. So it makes for fairly easy shooting. It does shoot well. The trigger pull is quite nice. And as I mentioned before, it's a double-sided 8-shot rotary magazine, so you have a total of 16 shots per magazine when you rotate it. Now I want to show you quickly how to load the magazine. It's fairly straightforward. We'll just load a couple in here. Now you have a little actual picture here, so you can't mess up, so try not to load them from that side. You basically just pop them in, give it a little rotation. So there's a magazine loaded. Pop that back in. Now one thing I found is that this gun works really well with with rounded nose, very smooth pellets. And you can see here that these pellets are really nice. They're almost polished, it seems, and they have a nice round nose. Just seems that they load better in this gun, and you have less misfires because they're round and they're going to go from the magazine into the barrel much easier. And with these particular pellets, I rarely have a misfire. I'd also recommend not using BBs because the BBs, it's a metal barrel on this particular gun that's rifled. And metal BBs aren't really the best thing for rifled metal barrels. So even though you can load BBs in this gun, I'd recommend against not doing that. Now this gun shoots pretty hard because it shoots at 400 feet per second with pellets. It's throwing a fair bit of CO2 through it, and so it will shoot really hard. Like the first few shots, you really notice the kick. Surprising again with this gun, like some of the other higher CO2 BB guns will have a bit of kick at the beginning. This one you notice it quite a bit, but as you get through, you will notice it starts to kick a little bit less. Now the feet per second does trail off a little bit at the end, but that's to be expected. With this particular gun, I was able to get about 4 magazines. So that's roughly 64 decent shots per CO2 cartridge. Now what I did find is that when you're shooting this gun, and as you get closer to the end of your CO2 cartridge, the ammunition tends to sag a little bit. And I was using fairly heavy pellets, so maybe using a lighter pellet might help that if you're shooting targets. I want to show you the target really quickly. So this particular one here, this grouping at the top, right in this area, the first half of my shooting was up here. And then near the bottom here, you can see the ammunition kind of started to sag a little bit because the CO2 went down a bit, and I started shooting a little bit near the bottom. And you can see it's pretty good though. There's like 2 separate groupings, like 2 areas here, and that's as a result of the CO2 going down a little bit. And a lighter pellet might help that. And this represents just rapid fire. The first target I was shooting maybe one every 2 to 3 seconds. I was actually aiming and taking my time. This target I just kind of went through and just blasted. And you know what? It's not a bad group really for just sort of shooting fairly quickly, a second, a half second between shots. One thing I almost forgot to show you was the CO2, and here I have the list and I still almost forgot to show you. But CO2 goes into this area here. You just load it in. I don't actually have a CO2 cartridge on me right now, but everybody knows what they look like. You just load it in, slide it in the top, and what you do is you rotate this around, and then you would tighten this up on the CO2, and once you've got it finger tight, you then rotate this back around, and that's when it pierces it, right? And so then you just put your cover back on. So it's fairly straightforward. It's quite easy to load this gun both with the pellets and with the CO2, so there's really not much more to say about that. Some things that I didn't like about this gun, I mean there's not a lot of them, but I didn't like this safety lever. I wish there was a way that they could have done this differently. Obviously it's a little tough to do it from here, but this thing is just so kind of big and out of place on here, and it kind of takes away because this wouldn't exist on the real gun. Maybe if they had a little slide here, a little button like they have on some of the other Umarex pistols, that would have been nicer to see. But it's a small thing. Now the other thing is the slide doesn't stay back. There's no way to keep the slide back, right? So you've got it here, you almost have to hold it. This slide release doesn't do anything, and when you shoot the last pellet, the slide doesn't stay back, but that's part of the design. It's pretty tough to do that with a rotary magazine, so that's understandable. Now really that's pretty much all I have negative to say about the gun. It's a very good gun. There's really few air guns out there that have these specifications. I mean the closest thing to it I would say would be the Desert Eagle, another Umarex product. I really like the fact that it's very close to the original PX4 Storm in appearance and operation. It has fairly good accuracy and like I said fairly high feet per second. With blowback, so it's a really nice combination. And this gun here in Canada is priced well under $100, and I really think that this gun makes a great addition to any collection of air guns that you might have. Thanks for joining me at replicairguns.com, and the next review I will do will be a field test on this particular gun, so make sure to check back and watch that review down the road. Take care.